It is great to see everybody. I hope everybody's well. We have, as always, great Torah. And it's Torah we sort of done, but it's definitely framed through the prism of what we're experiencing this year, which is and you shall be a blessing, to a land that I will show you. The journey of Lech Lecha, which is a journey we're all on. How do we undertake that journey? How do we navigate the road to our life journey? And so with Yitro, the portion where the Ten Commandments are found, nothing incidental here. We'll focus in on the meeting at the mountain, and somehow the first two words of the first commandment guide us in understanding our direction, and in understanding what revelation might be and how it might unfold. The blessings at the top of the page. Share with me in the blessing. Baruch
atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher
קידשנו במצוותיו
anu לעסוק בדברי Torah.
Torah. You know I'm going to mute you. I'm going to mute you because I can. Right? Here we go. Right? I love you, but I'm muting you. Right? So, you remember the beginning of the portion is Jethro, Yitro, one of the 6 parshiot named for individuals in the Torah. Yitro, not Jewish, not an Israelite. So it underscores the importance of our connection with people who may not be in our little tribe. I think we're all in one human family. Moses is reunited with his family thanks to Yitro. And then there's the meeting at the mountain in chapter 19. People of Israel are called to be Am Segulah, a treasured people, and a Goy Kadosh, a holy nation. And then towards the end of chapter 19, we get the framing for the revelation at Sinai, which is a transformational moment. It somehow still shapes who we are and how we walk through the world today. There's no question. So what does it mean? And what does the address of God mean to us even now? You see how I framed it. What must it mean to hear Anochi Adonai? We'll unpack that a little, and Mark is going to answer part of your question, I guarantee you. And by the way, there is no money back guarantee. I'm just making it clear. All right. And 2, right? Oh, Marvin, we need more chairs. We do need more chairs, right? For those of you online, there's got to be 80, 90 people in the room. Okay. Right. Right. There we go. Did we okay? Are we okay for the moment? Okay. Okay. Excellent. So it's this revelation, this meeting at the mountain that frames our continued existence. We're going to read the text, the setup, and then just the first couple of commandments, and we'll see where we go. We're going to start here. We're going to go right around.
Okay. On the 3rd day, as morning dawned, there was thunder and lightning, a dense cloud upon the mountain, and a very loud blast of a horn, and all the people who were in the camp trembled. Moses led the people out of the camp toward God, and they took their places at the foot of the mountain.
Yeah, keep going. You're doing great.
Mount Sinai was all in smoke, for the Lord had come down upon it in fire. The smoke rose like the smoke of a kiln, and the whole mountain trembled violently. The blare of the horn grew louder and louder. As Moses spoke, God answered him in thunder. The Lord came down upon Mount Sinai on the top of the mountain, and the Lord called Moses to the top of the mountain, and Moses went up.
Right. So this is right. So this is a cinematic moment. It is definitely something that we picture. We sort of see it. And it's a sort of a visual a spectacle, because it's the people coming out It's the mountain that they're at, meeting, they're in the plains here, they're coming to the mountain. It says they are Tahtit Hahar, which probably means at the base or the foot of the mountain. And they're looking up and they're seeing this spectacle, right? And the rabbinic framing for this is, as the rabbis would say, they are scared shitless. Okay. And so what is going on here? This is right, the meeting at the mountain. And then we get the directionals, right? From between God and Moses. Go ahead, Bishop.
The Lord said to Moses, "Go down, warn the people not to break through to the Lord to gaze, lest many of them perish. The priests also who came near the Lord must stay pure, lest the Lord break out against them." But Moses said to the Lord, "The people cannot come up to Mount Sinai, for you warned us, saying, set bounds about the mountain and sanctify it."
Yeah, so Moses sort of saying, yeah, you already told me that. I got it. It's all covered, right? Go ahead.
So the Lord said to him, "Go down and come back together with Aaron, but let not the priests or the people break through to come up to the Lord, lest he break out against them." And Moses went down to the people and spoke to them.
And then the next thing we hear, go ahead.
God spoke all these words, saying, "The Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, the house of bondage, you shall have no other gods besides me."
Right. So we get really the first two commandments. Right? I am Adonai, Anochi Adonai, and you shall have no other gods beside me. So this is the setup. How are you feeling? You're a member of the people of Israel. How are you feeling at this moment based upon the text? Where are you? Where is God? Raj.
I have a question on verse 19 and 22.
By the way, it's a very Jewish response when I ask a question to respond with a question. I just want to share. Right, yes.
So in 19, it says, as Moses spoke. What did he speak?
Yeah, yeah, so one really good question is, as Moses spoke, right? So, yeah, Moses spoke, what's he speaking, right? He spoke, yeah.
Just another observation about the text in verse 24, where the Lord refers to himself in the third person.
Where are we?
I'm assuming that where the Lord says to Moses, "Go down and come back together with Aaron, but let not the priests or the Lord break through to come up to the Lord, lest he break out against them."
Yeah, let's see if it says that. 11 and 9. Ba'alita ata v'haron imach, and you and Aaron come back up to me, with him. Ba'kohanim ba'am al yarshu el Adonai. Yeah, it does say, you God forbid you're going to come back up to Adonai. Yep, Pen Yifrot's bam. Yeah, it does. Yeah, sort of like the third person, the royal we, but it's the third person.
This strikes me as such a different approach to a relationship with God than we get later. Build me a sanctuary so that I may dwell among them. This very much is like the old school Judaism that I grew up with, where the rabbi's up there and he's doing the talking.
Yes.
You're allowed to be in the room.
Yes. My rabbi was Abraham Isaac Jacobson. I can't make up that name on a central casting. And from Haverhill, Massachusetts. And, I still have dear friends, my friend Paul Rosengard, my friend Carol Goldberg, who are both members of the temple. Isn't that amazing? Of Larchmont Temple. And we all remember the same thing, that when Rabbi Jacobson spoke, we thought it was sort of God, right? It was sort of God, right? May the time not be distant. Page 71, Union Prayer Book. So it was, so it's very us and them. It's very distant. It's a big distance, it seems, right? Ooh.
What strikes me is it starts at dawn, something new, a new beginning.
Love it.
Here I am.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, it starts at dawn, this scene unfolding.
I think it's kind of neat that there's thunder and lightning, and he still has to say, "I am God." There's thunder and lightning and the shofar, and that, but then he has to say these words, "I am God."
Right. So Lisa's pointing out, right? She's noting that there's all this thunder and lightning and still there's words, right? How do those connect? Josh?
I would just call that production value. There's an observation that it shakes, the mountain shakes, there's smoke, there's fire. I mean, this is a big, like, I'm gonna make a big announcement, I want the whole seafood.
Yeah, this is a big scene, right? This is major production value, Dave.
It's obvious, but why is God so obsessed with the people coming out? It's in Torah, I guess, something is said twice, it's a big deal. It's said twice here, but he said it once before. that.
Yeah, so it's a threefer, right? Yeah. Yeah, what's God's obsession? Hey, don't come up to the mountain lest you perish, right? And then he says, by the way, and you and Aaron, you come on back, right? Jane?
I just have a question about 22.
Yeah.
Says the priest also come near you and must say pure, lest Lord break out against them. So, I'm not, they said, must also, the priest also must stay pure. Meaning who else is supposed to be pure?
The people are told to stay pure in the earlier part of chapter 19. But here it's Vegam HaKohanim, so it's, also don't forget the Kohanim, right?
Now, what is it about staying pure that God is concerned?
It's a minimal part of our koshi, but I'll get there just a little bit, in 5 minutes, maybe less.
That was my second question. It says Kohanim.
Yeah,
The Kohanim, don't they come later on when the whole commandment structure? And it says like there will be 10 priests or the whole structure, the Aaronic priesthood.
Yeah, yeah.
But here, they already have priests.
yeah, so Rashi's pointing out that there are no Kohanim. So Rashi, that's what I was gonna tell her, there's no Kohanim. But earlier in the chapter, we're called a Mamlechet Kohanim. Mamlechet Kohanim, we are a kingdom of priests. Oh, maybe that's the people, right? So what is all this? Let me just do a little short comb for you before we go to and we're gonna have hopefully get to the drash sewed early so we can talk. Cause it's worth it. So you're noticing, right? Before this, there was a conversation. Moses goes up the mountain. Moses comes down the mountain. There are setting bounds around the mountain. Moses summons the elders. Moses brings them backward to God. So there's a lot of back and forth. But now we get the meeting at the mountain. It's the third day. Third day is always significant. I don't know if Harry's online. He is online. Harry has his hand raised already. Right, I have to call on Harry. Harry, go ahead.
Yes, I was going to note the third day. That's the day Abraham set out with Isaac, so we have to have our reference. But I just had a question about perhaps an ambiguity in the text. So it's let's see, it's 21. So in verse 25, Moses went down to the people and spoke to them. Then, well, we have a paragraph, but there's no paragraphing in Torah, I guess. Then the next thing is God spoke all these words. So is this do we have a plagiarism problem, or is Moses quoting directly, or did the people of Israel hear these words? Who's doing the speaking to whom was my question, because the text maybe is a little ambiguous to me.
Yes, I'm going to underscore what Harry said, and we're going to get there in a second. That is exactly going to be the question. Zevi.
Just the politics of it. It's a priestly text, because there's really no reason for Aaron to come up with him. But he's a priest, and whoever wrote this was a priest. And they want to accentuate the importance of priesthood to these people. That's why Aaron is in this text.
So maybe it's a P text, right, in the JEPD. Maybe it's a P text written by the Kohanim or framed by the Kohanim. No disagreement there. If you look at what Harry said, that's the big question. Because if you're setting this scene and you're the director, right, and there's a lot of production value in this scene, you begin with in verse 16. You have, as Lisa notes, the thunder and the lightning. Kol shofar chazak me'od, as the Midrash says, that is the sound of the shofar that keeps growing stronger. It's not human. It doesn't stop. That's impossible. Then you have vayecherad kol ha'am. All the people trembled, right? Then they come towards the mountain. They're trembling already, and they see Sinai. And all in smoke. Why? Because Adonai came down. The word yarad alav in fire. And then we hear the whole mountain trembled. The people are trembling. The mountain is trembling. Huh. And then, as was noted, Vayihi kol shofar holech v'chazek. It just keeps getting louder, the sound of the shofar. And we have Moses speaks and God answers in thunder. The word is ya'anenu b'kol. Well, the word thunder can mean thunder, or kol is also a voice. So is God speaking in a voice, or is God speaking in thunder? And then if you just look at directionals, verse 20 says, Vayered Adonai al Har Sinai, and God Adonai came down on Mount Sinai, right? And then at the end of the verse, Vayal Moshe, Moses went up. Next verse 21, God speaks to Moshe and says, raid, go down, right? And tell the people, etc., etc. Skip to verse 24. Vayomer Elav Adonai, and then Adonai said to him, Lich raid, right? Go down and come back up. Okay, go down, come back up. Again, a directional. But then in 25, as Harry notes, Vayered Moshe El Ha'am. So Moses went down to the people, Vayomer Alehem, and said to them, right? And told them what God told him. The next thing we hear is, and Adonai spoke all these words saying, I am Adonai, the Ten Commandments. So where's Moses? It seems, with the people. Where's God? On the mountain. So there's a lot of questions of direction that impact Revelation.
But this might be
Go ahead, Josh.
Moses' line.
Which might be Moses' line?
21. I mean, Elohim, like here's what God said.
Vayomer Adonai El Moshe.
Sorry, 20, at the end.
Oh, at the end, you talking about 25?
Yeah.
Oh, the very, very end. Vayomer it's Vayomer Alehem. So I would translate it, Vayered Moshe Elam, and Moses went down to the mountain,
Yeah.
right, and told them.
Right, and then the next might be his line.
Might be what he told them is what he said.
Mighty what he told them. Okay, so that implies that, right, as Harry said, who's doing the talking here? Right? Who's doing the talking? And is Moses a translator? Is right? And what are the people actually hearing at the base of Sinai? You know, being fearful, to say the least. Right?
Could you just could you go back to verse 19?
Yeah, go
on the
ahead.
screen?
Go ahead.
Raja, yeah, I think it was 19.
Vayered
It says in verse 19.
Oh, I'm sorry,
19, right?
Yeah, there it is, right there.
And it says in verse 19, and it says, and Moses spoke.
Yeah.
But it doesn't say what he said.
Yeah, it's totally ambiguous,
It's
right?
ambiguous. What did he say?
Moshe Yidaber, and that, by the way, that is the future tense, right?
Right.
Moshe Yidaber, Moses will speak, Vaha Elohim Ya'anenu Bekol, and God will answer in thunder, in voice, in booming voice, you know.
You know, when I hear this story, what comes to my mind is the Charlton Heston scene. He goes up, he has this encounter, he comes down, and he's clearly different. In many ways. So my question is this: when do we, as ordinary people, have moments like that in our life?
Yes. Yes. Ironically, Arnie's actually asking the perfect question, right? Because he's right on target. How does this revelation, at the mountain, this sort of unbelievable meeting of the peoplehood and God and Moses as the maybe intermediary, so what about us, right? We're Israel. Yeah, what do we, what's it say to us? Yeah, Mike.
No, I was just gonna say that the verse 20:1 kind of contradicts the setup, which is that Moses is gonna serve as an intermediary.
Yeah,
Because, or I should say, to interpret that verse
Yeah.
as saying that God is speaking directly to the people
yeah,
would, go against the setup to that verse.
yes, yeah, and God spoke all these words saying, Vaydaber, right? So God speaks all the words saying, it seems that Moses is down on the mountain. Down from the mountain, he's with the people, which is where a leader should be. And that God is, right, speaking, God has come down upon the mountain, but ain't nobody up there. And the Holy One speaks. Lloyd, last comment.
It seems that there's a tension as to what happens in Revelation with the offering. You have God telling Moses, keep them away.
Yeah.
Keep them away.
Yeah,
Moses goes, of course. Fight, goes, now you gotta warn the priest. But then you go on later in the chapter,
yeah,
and the text starts saying, and they stood at a distance. And they said to Moses, speak to us and we'll hear. Because if we are directly in contact, we'll die.
right.
So do we really want all that revelation?
Right.
And in a certain sense, that, hey, you know what, this is a production we really don't want to be at.
Right.
Sort of becomes one of the running currents in Jewish history.
Yes. Right. How close do we want to be to Revelation? Right. Because this is right. Lest we die is a big threat.
Right.
Right. And so there is a tension built into this whole thing. A tension. Right. It's the tension of Revelation. And how much do we hear? How much do we need to hear? How much do we want to hear? How much must we hear in order for it to impact, right? To be internalized, right? If your questions are really quick, I'm just gonna go right here and then right here.
It's sort of like dolphins speaking and you don't understand. So they're speaking in the thunder and lightning and the fire and the smoke. And it's, so that there is a direct speaking.
So so first of all, dolphins, I was not thinking about, but it's about, and maybe it's being uttered and we don't know what's being said, but there's something, right? Last one.
Can I just,
Debbie, one sec.
it's, God is this insecurity that God's insecurity. Right away, he says, but there will be no other God except me. Obviously, there are other gods, right? Otherwise, he wouldn't say it.
Yes,
But he's worried about it. From the beginning, he's worried about it, that they're going to abandon him.
So, again, we know where they came from. They came from Egypt. We know what their life experience has been. So we will get there very shortly. Last real comment, Mike.
An admittedly snarky observation, just picking up on what Lloyd said. I mean, is this kind of the first draft of the Full Employment for Clergy Act?
Yeah, so, we can't be too close, please, right? Please, but here's the thing, if we strip all this away, what we're experiencing is a meeting at the mountain, which seems that Moses is in fact down with the people, together with them, and God's on the mountain. Watch what the rabbis do with this, because how we receive revelation is everything.
I have a quick question.
Yeah,
Is breakout a good translation in the Hebrew?
exactly.
So what is that what does it mean when he's gonna break out? Does anyone know?
Like a plague.
Yeah,
Same word for plague.
and we got,
Yep.
and we gotta give Moses a lot of credit because he's going up the mountain amidst all of this that's going on. He's whatever.
You know, God, right, so Moses is going where no man wants to go, has been before. Is that, what's that, a line about space? Was that about space, right?
Yeah.
Right, so, right, thank you. So now, so here we go. Who's up? Is Raj, you up? Boy, we've had a lot of conversation here. So we're gonna go a little bit rapid through this, so we can make it. We got time. So this is the Rashbam, Rashi's grandson, trying to understand what is the nature of the transmission of revelation.
Moses spoke to the Holy One, and Yahweh answered, not in thunder, but b'kol, in a booming voice.
So thunder and voice are the same virtual word. Okay, give us the Rashi as well, because now the grandfather is saying something else.
Yahweh came down. Did God really descend upon the mountain? For Torah says, for from the heaven I spoke to you. In one verse he descended, in another he's in the heavens. So we understand that the Holy One bent the upper and lower realms, spreading the heavens atop the mountain like a bedsheet, as the throne of glory settled upon it.
So now we're getting to, these are all clues, because what is revelation? It's the meeting at the mountain, meeting like the date we fell in love. So what does it mean? And he's just quoting the Midrash from 6 or 7 centuries before. What is Rashi saying based upon the Agadic, the Midrash? What's he saying?
Okay. For me, it means that God is everywhere. I mean, that God has, God can open him herself up and descend wherever God wants to.
Yes. But so what is this saying to us? What does this mean? What does it mean? Why a bedsheet?
I think that we can connect to God.
Okay. This is not like a random metaphor. It's a bedsheet. Yes, it's a union. It's a union. It is an intimacy, right? It is love. It is a meeting at the mountain, right? It's about, right? So it's God is now, right, draped upon the mountain like a bedsheet, inviting us to join the Holy One in bed. So there's something implied here about, you hear this revelation, it's about intimacy, right?
Well, a lot of the text seems like almost the opposite. He's saying, keep away.
Yeah,
Where do we
right.
get the bed sheet and the.
Yeah, so when did the rabbis get this? Yeah, and how is it? So we are gonna get there to, I think, in about 44 minutes. Virginia.
Yeah, I think that there's a moment in which the limits disappear, where earth and the heavens unite, and it happens in very, very few instances, and this is one of those moments.
Yes, beautiful. And in fact, Virginia, the other midrash on this says that God came down on the mountain and we were at the base of the mountain so that there was no separation.
There we are. I'm like
there
the
we
midrash.
are. So you're quoting the midrash, right?
Yes.
So what do we hear? Who hears? How do we hear? As Harry asked, hearing, by the way, is everything for us at this moment. So God spoke all these words saying, right? I am Adonai. That's the beginning. All these words, right? What do the rabbis make of this? The Chizkuni. Who's up? Simon.
Rashi explains, God said all the commandments simultaneously, but Israel could not understand them. And he uttered the first 2 individually, but the people grew frightened and unable to hear, and Moses uttered the rest.
So somehow, right, the implication is at Kol HaDevarim Ha'eleh. It says all these words. And the rabbis interpret, yeah, God speaks them all at once because God can.
Yeah.
And the people say, what? Right? And then, right, God says, I'm Adonai, have no other gods but me. Right? I'm God, no other gods. Right? Is it a problem in ego, as Zevi implies? Right? God, right? We do hear when Moses wants to know God's presence, for I'm a jealous God. Elkanah. So is that what this is about? Maybe in part. But I think there's something more. what's the message of Revelation that we must hear? And now the rabbis are gonna go crazy because they wanna try to understand, how are we hearing? How is this transmitted? How is it received? Sarna, of course, is the 21st century commentator. This is Jonathan Sarna's father, Nachum Sarna, right? Tom.
This introductory statement is unique in Torah in that it does not indicate to whom the divine declaration is addressed. The lack of specification satisfies an inherent complexity. On the one hand, it is all the people as a corporate entity, a psychic unity that enters into a covenantal relationship with God. On the other hand, each member of the community is addressed individually.
Yeah, so what is Sarna saying about the hearing, about how revelation is imparted?
It's in your head.
I don't think he says that. No, I don't think he says that. Vayidaber Elohim et kol adver. So it's, I hear it and we hear it. It's each one and everyone, right? Because it's, your God individually, at the same time, it's everyone. Zevi, is your hand up?
Yeah, I just want to say something about what God said.
Yeah, go
Because
ahead.
what he says is, I brought you out of the land of Egypt, the house of bondage. So
Yeah.
God is talking, God gave them freedom, right? That's why freedom is so important to Judaism. That right there, that one verse. He gave them freedom, except they have to worship him, one single God. There's a lot of freedom, but it's constrained in
Yeah,
relationship to
they're
God.
going, as the Midrash says, they go from one king to the king of kings. That's what the Midrash says. Yeah. Eric.
It makes a lot of analogies to marriage, having the sheet up on there. And here I am, and you're the only one for me forever. Like, that's very straight up marriage. And then fighting, and I might kill you, straight up marriage.
Right, Steve.
I recall that, they're a mixed multitude, but now they're standing by their tribe, and they're all standing in a certain pattern. And they're all listening in a certain way. So what's happened is they've gone from slavery to being mixed multitude, now having very specific roles. Everybody is now defined.
Everybody has, they're all defined, and somehow they are all united by this revelation. By hearing the word, they become somehow an entity, right? Scared, fearful, unsure, uncertain.
Heard a charismatic speaker. You feel like they're talking just to you.
Beautiful.
Even though they're talking to
Yeah.
everyone.
Yep. So how is this word addressed? Right, everybody, all right? And now they're gonna focus, as Zevi started to focus, they latch on to Anochi Adonai. I am Adonai, your God. What is this saying? Right, so Anochi Adonai Elohecha. Where are the Rambam first? The Rambam. So think about this. You're gonna get all the commandments. Don't have any other gods, right? Don't create any idols. Honor the Sabbath. Father and mother. Murder, steal, right? All the stuff, right? What's the first commandment? I am Adonai. That's a commandment. Okay, the Rambam. Who's got Rambam? Kat.
This constitutes the most fundamental of fundamentals and pillar of all sciences, to know that there is a first cause bringing into existence all existing things, and all that exists does so only by the truth of his existence. The knowledge of his precept constitutes a positive precept, as it says, I am Adonai, your God.
So Anochi Adonai is the foundation of faith, according to Rambam, right? Ramban underscores that. Go ahead, Dave.
The divine utterance, Anochi Adonai, constitutes a positive commandment, establishing the existence and will of God. In rabbinic tradition, this commandment is called accepting the sovereignty of heaven. As the Mechilta teaches, a king invaded a country. His courtiers said to him, issue decrees for us to follow. He refuses, saying, when you accept my sovereignty, then I will issue decrees. Thus God said to Israel, I am the Lord your God. When you know I am Adonai, my commandments naturally follow.
So if God can establish God's self based upon historic understanding, where you've come from, where you're going, then the laws make sense. If God's not God, it's ethical culture, right? What is it?
If you're speaking to a crowd of any size, whether it's a convention or whether it's God or whatever, you have to introduce yourself. You have to say, you know, this is who I am, this is what I want, and then say, this is what I want you to do.
Yeah, so Jane is channeling the Abravanel. So Dave, just give us the Abravanel as well.
I am not embarrassed to tell you the phrase Anochi Adonai constitutes no commandment, either dogmatic or practical, but is solely a preface to the subsequent commandments and injunctions, a declaration making known to the children of Israel who is addressing them.
Hey, it's me, Adonai. Yeah, I'm the guy. I did all that stuff. That's just me. Here's my resume, right? Let's have a little drink. We'll talk, right? So that's what Abravanel thinks. He's not alone, but he's in the minority, the deep minority, I would say, the large minority, or the small minority. So most think that hearing Anochi Adonai is everything. Hearing I am Adonai and hearing it from God is everything. Do we need the Ibn Ezra? Yeah, it's the same thing. Same thing as, right? This is about a faith transcending, right? That hearing Ani Adonai is the whole thing. The Maharal is much better. Clarence, give us the Maharal if you would.
Not Ani, but Anochi, where it designates absolute being. The pronoun is used here to introduce the Ten Commandments, or it establishes the existence of God, independent of contingencies. Anochi, Adonai, proclaims a divine reality, sovereign, even if not acknowledged. This is the truth upon which all else rests.
Right. Anochi is the pronoun that, right, the Kabbalists understand that we share with Adonai. Right? It's right. Anochi is the I, the absolute being of the universe, and Anochi is us. It's the pronoun we share. It links us.
Can I
Right?
just say something? Jeffy, can I just say something?
You got it.
I think Anochi Adonai is the problem between us and Christianity.
Go ahead.
Well, there's one God. There's one God. But then there's Jesus, who's also a God. Anochi Adonai goes against the Christian theology.
Yeah,
You can't have, you can't have both.
I can let a Christian answer, but I would say this.
What's
I
the
would say
Christian
this.
answer?
I would say that, yeah, the Christian answer is just, you know, Jesus is God incarnate, right? And so Jesus is not God, God is God, right? And so Jesus is a manifestation of God. And the foundation of Jesus being God incarnate is the prophets, where it says Son of Man. And so there's a lot of precedent in Israelite religion as it later develops to understand, oh, yeah, somebody can embody godliness.
And we worship the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
Right. So as the bishop would say, and he says every week this congregation, because he is nothing if not consistent, right? We worship the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Right? Right? I don't want to get off on a tangent here because it'll right. I'm letting one comment. Ellis is the only comment on this. Ellis, just unmute.
Okay. I'm not going to comment on that directly. I had a separate question.
Thank you, Ellis. I'm going to send you a check.
All right. My question is, since part of what I understand the message of the narratives overall is to try to get people to move away from sacrifice, one underlying thing, then if we recognize that paganism has many gods, if we are to be the opposite of that, then we must have one God. So is God a response to that, or is it the other way around? If that makes sense. That
so is Anochi Adonai a response to the paganism from which they just left?
Yes. If the leadership, if the scribes are saying, hey, look, one of the mechanisms that we can use to bind people and push away what the Ten Commandments say, all of these things. Crime, violence, stealing. We have to move away from paganism.
So can you see the Sforno, Ellis? The next comment, the Sforno, you should read this, because it's exactly what it is. You just gave us the Sforno.
Okay, I will.
God alone is the master. Do you see that?
Or no, yeah, God alone is the master who makes real our existence.
Right, Adonai, Ehyeh,
Adonai.
Asher Ehyeh, right? Adonai, I will be what I will be.
I affirm life and detest that which stands counter to human growth.
Elohecha.
Elohecha,
Yeah.
your God, opening a direct line of communication through worship between us without need for a mediator.
Yeah, so what is this? This is a refutation of pagan faith, of the idolatry of Egypt. It says, you have a whole different God. All of the people are united because Anochi Adonai. I am Adonai. Adonai is Ehyeh Asher Ehyeh, right? The one who enables you to grow into your most sacred self. And I am Elohecha, your God. No intermediary here, no in between. It's just me and you. We are in covenantal relationship. I got Steve, I got Dave, I got Wood.
This strikes me as being a very boober moment.
And then Ellen, a very boober moment. Yeah, first of all, you shouldn't ruin it. Don't say anything else. That was brilliant. Right? The answer, yes. Yes.
That cop in the Anochi that I'm not aware of.
Is there a significance to
The extra letter, to the cop in Anochi. It's not Ani, it's Anochi.
Well, I don't, yeah, so yeah, there is. Yeah, Ani is, right, Ani is the sort of like informal, that's, but Anochi is the formal preposition of announcing yourself, right? Right? So Anochi is the whole substance of a being, right? As opposed to Ani, which is informal, right? Which is sort of general, right? So Anochi is the affirmation of being, right? And it's the pronoun we share with God. Lloyd and then Ellen, and then we're back to the text. Oh, I'm sorry, Dave, and then Lloyd. Sorry, I'm sorry, Dave. I'm
I
sorry.
was just gonna say that this Rambam is special, and I'm not sure if this is from guy from Complex, but he's saying something more than I am Adonai, your guy. He's saying, he's refuting ex nihilo, so creation from nothing.
Yes.
So he's saying that not only am I, your God, but I am the creator.
Yeah. Then I stand beyond time. Yes, correct, Lloyd.
There's an argument to be made. You're dealing with multiple versions of revelation. In the same sense, God goes ahead, creates the universe, he goes, I'm kind of sick of these people, sends a flood, and then has a reboot. This is take one. It goes badly in the end.
Yeah.
You get to take two, and there's a slight variation. God tells Moses, it's just you and me this time.
Yeah, come up to the mountain.
You have language that then, right, you've got saving Moshe, which becomes the guts, so to speak, of the fast day reading in traditional Judaism.
Yeah.
And he becomes, by Yered Adonai B'Anan, God comes down, but you get saving Moshe.
Yeah.
And at the same time, Moses is told to go up.
Yeah.
And the text that's described isn't a repetition of the Decalogue. It's something else.
Yeah.
It's basically God laying out his attributes as opposed to the finger wag. You're threatening it, but it's basically, I'll do what you do well by me, I'll do well by you.
Yeah.
You do bad.
Yeah, my contention, however, would be, and I hear you, right? But my contention would be, we would never get to the second
if we didn't have
the first.
Right. I get that. And then Moses in Deuteronomy recapitulates and gives his edits, but it's Moses who's speaking.
Yeah. Lloyd is making the point, which is so clear, which is Revelation begins at Sinai, but it doesn't necessarily end, right? Ellen, if you can be concise as you always are, because we got to get to our text. But Ellen.
Well, I just want to say that this whole discussion has been very enlightening to me, because I've always wondered about whether this opening was itself a commandment, as Ramban says it is. And it made me think, if I can bring in secular tradition, it makes me think of Plato's Republic, in which he says we must pay attention to the content of what is said rather than to who says it. It matters what is said, the essence, the substance, not the speaker. A bad man can say good things, a good man can say bad things. And I think in this context of our discussion, it has become so clear to me that this initial moment in the scene of Revelation is a commandment, and not just I'm the speaker, so I'm saying something. I don't know if that helps.
You know, it does help, but I would say this to you, as opposed to Plato's Republic, the speaker and the word are one. There is not a distinction, and the foundation of understanding or receiving revelation is both the speaker and the word. Watch. Pirkei de Rabbi Eliezer, who's reading? Karina. Anochi Adonai Elohecha.
At Sinai, God was like a mirror that never changes. Yet every person who looks into it saw a different face.
Right, that's my favorite quote. I quote it every year at Shavuot time, right? So this is all about every single person receiving revelation, which somehow is a reflection of them, right? And that just gets coupled with, right? It says, Anochi Adonai Elohecha, your God, the Elohecha. Karina, give us that as well, the Chizkuni, your God.
Your God, this is singular. Just as an image can be made so that each person feels the eyes are looking directly at him, so too, when God spoke, everyone thought Anochi was speaking to him, her alone.
Right, so it's so beautiful, right? Right, as Susan said previously, it's like the master is speaking to me. There's a great Hasidic tale saying this very same thing. Right? Right, it's like the portrait in the creepy haunted horror movie. Like the eyes are probably like, you say, what is it? What's going on? Right? Somehow God is speaking to you.
I'm spinning on this linguistic trip. That
Yeah.
if you were to break ani apart.
Yeah.
Zeb, please stop me if this doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
But it is not lost on me that the letter that differentiates Anochi from ani is a cha.
Yeah.
And that letter is often a transitive to indicate.
It means like or as.
But also, if you were to say, yours.
Yeah.
So there's something yourish.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think it could be a stretch, maybe not. I will tell you this, that the fact that God didn't say ani and used anochi is essential, especially
I've
Kabbalistically.
also read that there's origins in the Egyptian language of the time, but that may be a separate conversation.
There's a parallel, yeah, there is, right? But give us the Tanchuma, because you'll understand the Tanchuma as, so what is being received here? How is the revelation being communicated? Go ahead.
I, the Eternal, am your God. Rav Hanina Bar Papa said, the Holy One appeared to them with an angry face, with a neutral face, with a friendly face, and with a laughing face. The Holy One said to them, even though you see all these likenesses, I, the Eternal, am your God. Rev Levi.
So this is literally a Talmudic discussion, but it's transferred into the 11th century compilation of Tanchuma. Go ahead.
Rav Levi said, the Holy One appeared to them as an image with faces on every side. If 1,000 people were looking at it, it would be looking back at all of them. So it is with the Holy One. When God spoke, each and every person of Israel said, the divine word has been with me alone. Has been with me alone.
Yeah.
Rabbi Yossi Bar Hanina said, it was according to the capacity of each and every person to hear that the divine word spoke with him or her. Since we find in the case of the manna that when it came down to Israel, each one of them savored it according to his or her capacity. How much the more would the principle apply with Anochi?
So what are they saying? It's wonderful. How is revelation received? Individually by each person and communally as a nation at the same time, right? What else? It was according to the capacity of each and every person, like manna. Right? We read Clarence last week. He wasn't even here to get the glory.
Right.
Right? He wrote a great essay about manna, right? People could taste anything if their imagination allowed it. Manna could taste like anything. Revelation can be revelatory if we are open to receiving it. And what's the whole thing? What does it all hinge on? Our capacity to hear. It is linguistic and auditory. It is our ability to hear.
How do we get the concept then of one God, if each one of us has our own image of God?
Yeah, isn't that great? God is so, right, so all-encompassing that even though we can each have our own individual understandings, there is still a unity of being that unites them all. Okay, right? And what is that unity of being? Yud, Hey, Vav, Hey, Adonai, right? And how is that affirmed? By our entering into relationship after hearing Anochi Adonai. All right, Steve, read the boober. The last thing in the page.
I didn't read that. I didn't, okay. He is not an impersonal idea one speaks about or believes in, but a living God directly is I to the thou.
I didn't hear you then.
Of the hearer who can, by the same token, address him as thou.
What begins at Sinai? I-thou relationship. The intimate relationship between two who are now beginning an ongoing conversation. Mike.
Just, I can't help but sort of notice an irony that the case for the priesthood of all believers is being made by the priesthood.
Yeah. So what do you mean by that?
Well, just that this idea that each person can communicate or have a relationship directly with God.
Yep.
At least raises the question of, well, then what is the purpose or the need for intermediaries?
Yeah. And of course, that also plays out in Moses, right? Right? Because if you take Lloyd's example, the people didn't want to come too close. In fact, we've studied the next chapter that says the people distanced themselves and they went back, how many furlongs? And because they were too afraid, right? So oftentimes we need somebody to bring us close. But somehow we were all at the base of the mountain and we heard Anochi Adonai.
The verse Tanchuma goes along with the Yud Hey Vav Hey, I will be what I will be to each of you.
Yes, I will be what I will be to each of you. Yud Hey Vav Hey, right? Ehiyah Asher Ehiyah, I am that I am. I will be what I will be. So God evolves and grows as our understanding grows and develops. It is rich. So 100%. In a minute, we're going to go to the second half of the Midrash Tanchuma in the Drash. Okay, Tom and then Steve.
You got 600,000 people standing there. You got Byzantine people that don't have anything to do with this. What happens to them?
Say it again. I didn't hear. So you got 600,000 people standing at the base of the mountain. Yeah.
Okay, and then amongst that 600,000, you got Gushim, you got a bunch of people that don't have anything to do with this. So what happens to them?
It has to do with this.
It has something to do with everybody. Everybody there is implied. Doesn't matter. We are bound. I think we are now bound through the word. Right? Absolutely. Right. So I'm gonna Steve, and then I'm gonna go to a few people online. Do I have time for this? Not really. But go ahead.
I think that the trap here is that you could fall out of the relationship. That it's not just having the entry, it's not just immediately a relationship in the beginning, but you have to work at it. I don't think it's just something that is there and here we are and everything is good. It requires a lot of effort on our part to make this work.
Let's underscore the last thing Steve said. A relationship with the holy, with Anochi Adonai, requires effort on our part. This is not a top down. This is somehow relational. I'm going to start at the bottom of my list. First, Michael, and then Tamara, then Zevi, then Ellis, and then is there somebody else after that? Oh my God, I don't even know. Go ahead, Michael, you start.
Yeah, I just want to say something that is never in this
Parsha said explicitly, it seems to be at the core of it, which is Adonai Echad. God is one, that heaven comes together with earth, that God is addressing all and each person individually, that the oneness is both oneness, all embracing, and individual. And this is actually that, and at this point, of course, we are not yet got to the Shema. And here they don't hear the word of God, they see the word of God. They
Beautiful, beautiful.
don't
You see, Michael says it very, yeah. So they see God's word. What is revelation? Hearing and seeing the word. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. We're gonna come back there tomorrow.
Yes, I'm going to jump on that because the question of hearing reminded me of Parasha Vayera and Parasha Bo that we read a few weeks ago. And the question of hearing is key to Paro because Paro cannot hear a thing, he cannot see a thing. And that's the big difference that there is and that we can see between the Israelites who all of their senses are open, whereas the people of Mitzrayim and Paro are not.
Yeah, beautiful. And remember, what do we respond here? Naaseh v'nishma. We will do and we will shema, right? We will hear, understand, embody, right? Respond, right? So beautiful, beautiful. Yep. Who's next? Zevi and then else.
Yeah, so I'm just in Hebrew, I'm trying to understand the difference colloquially. He
Yep,
could
go
say,
ahead.
Ani Adonai, I am
could.
God.
Or she
right?
could.
He say
Yep.
that. He could say. But the word is Anochi. And I think Anochi, even if you use it colloquially today, one person to another, it's a willingness to reveal much more about yourself than Ani. Anochi
Beautiful.
is a broader description
Yeah,
of who I am.
Yeah, I would call it beautiful. I call it substantive.
Yeah.
It's a substantive opening. Yep.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Yep. Ellis, and then we're gonna jump to the drush.
I was gonna ask a question about the mediator, the part about between us without the need for a mediator.
Yeah.
And is the mediator an object, or is the mediator, or is basically Moses a shepherd and not a mediator, and an object is a mediator?
I love that, man. I would agree. I would say to you, Moses is a shepherd, right? And the people are unwilling and uncooperative sheep, right? As Lloyd pointed out before. And so Moses is trying to encourage and facilitate the meeting at the mountain, and the people are not always open to it because, as Tamara said, they are not willing to hear. They are still stuck in a Pharaoh mindset or a Pharaoh soul set. So now watch. We have to call in a couple people online. Andy Sverdlov, are you eating breakfast or can you read for us?
I can read for us. What do we have next?
Yeah, Midrash Tanchuma, and God spoke all these words simultaneously. Watch what that means. So now this is the Midrash's understanding. I think it's brilliant. Go ahead.
He causes death and restores life at the same time. He wounds and he heals simultaneously. He answers a woman in travail, those who travel on the sea and wander on the desert, and those who are imprisoned in the east, the west, the north, and south. He forms the light and creates the darkness, makes peace and fashions evil, all at the same time. Dust is turned into man, and man is turned back into dust, as it is said, and brings on a shadow of death in the morning. What is meant by a shadow of death in the morning? It means that God restores man to his original state by morning. According to tradition, the soul leaves the body when it is sleeping and returns every morning when it awakes. And this reminds me of the prayer that is said by observant Jews when they wake up in the morning. Thank you.
Yes. But what does it remind us of? What does it mean? Right? What does it mean? Which is just could be a throwaway line, but it's not. Right? Right? By Deber Elohim et Kol Hadvarim Ha'el Lemor. God spoke all these words, and the Talmudic Haggadah says simultaneously. What is the Midrash interpreting that to mean? It's all God. Everything you experience in the world, the sadness and the sweetness, the joy and the suffering, the moments of doubt, despair, and delight. It's all God. there's a single source for every experience and every moment. It's all Anochi Adonai. Right? That's part A. That's part A. So if it's all God, how do we then receive revelation? Right? The Sfat Emet, right? The Gera Rebbe. Who's up next reading? Jane. Jane, the Gera Rebbe, please. Happy is the one. The Sfat Emet, I'm sorry.
Okay. Happy is the one whose listenings are to me, hovering always at my doorways, door within door. Listening means that one should always be prepared to receive and listen closely to the words of God. The voice of that word is in everything, since each was created by God's utterance and has the power of divine speech even within it. This is the hidden light that we are told to find.
Right, so the Gera Rebbe, who's a chassid and a little bit of a mystic, what does the Gera Rebbe say? What's the Gera Rebbe say?
He's saying that that everybody hears God in a different way.
Okay, but the Gera Rebbe is opposite saying, he's quoting Proverbs. I checked this morning, says, wait a minute, I know that quote. This is the quote. Ashrei Adam Shomea Li, right? Happy is the one who listens to me or who hears me coming early to my gates each day, right? Ki motzi'i matzah chayim. For the one who finds me finds life and obtains favor from Adonai. Meaning, if you can hear me, the Holy One speaking through all created being, that will be the key to your life. That will give you a life unfolding abundant. That will give. So it's about hearing somehow that informs, right? So let me just finish these commentaries, and then I'm going to go to questions. Harold, give us the Jonathan Wittenberg, who I don't know who it is. These two rabbis I quoted, they were connected in a commentary page.
God's speech is always life enhancing, the essence of the commandment to love. I am moved by those who God speaks, not only from the heavens, but out of the anguish of human need and in the innocent song of the birds. God calls to us from out of the most terrible suffering and amidst the most exquisite beauty. Our challenge is to listen.
Right. So I mean, and Howard Cohen says the same thing, right? How often we have failed to hear. I don't know. You know, it's I'm guessing Lois is not going to read, but Lois, do you want to read? It's up to you. Go ahead. Okay.
Understand the voice of God speaking to us through nature. For human acts of courage, kindness, and compassion, or through poetic, musical, and other ingenuous human acts of creation, or through scientific inspiration. Hearing again and again without understanding how dull the people's hearts. What is it in words of Isaiah that dulls minds, stops our ears up, clouds eyes, and results in hearing without understanding and seeing without perceiving?
Right. So, you dull and witless people. Isaiah tells us Israel, and this is, generations, centuries later, right? We still can't hear God. Right? And what is it? There's a parallel. It's a couplet, right? Right? We can't hear because our hearts aren't open to hear. This is right? So that's the parallel. We hear when our hearts are open, right? Virginia.
Yeah, I'm very impressed by this phrase, the shadow of death in the morning, because I wonder in the morning, and who has not felt that first, that we are back to life? And maybe that is the invitation that we get to be part of covenant. Covenant is not something that lasts forever or is invariable. Covenant is renewed every morning.
Beautiful.
To me, in any case.
And as Andy Sverdlov said, yeah, a traditional Jew or this Jew, right? I'm not a traditional Jew. I'm my own Jew. But of course, I say the same every morning. I say Moda Ani, right? Yeah. So there's a sense of renewal, right? For sure. But it's all part of the experience of the Holy One. Michael.
It's more of a challenge to hear God when looking at Rabbi Wittenberg,
when there's the anger you need and it's, when it's the most terrible suffering. And I think the Israelis, at Mount Sinai were at that point still suffering. They had come out of Egypt, that's
Yeah,
great. But
yeah, beautiful.
they doubted what they're doing, and it was hard to hear. That's why take one needed to take two and to take three.
Yeah.
Before they could really.
It's hard to hear the Holy One. Take a look. I'm gonna call on Freddie. Are you open to reading? Read a little bit of this. Maybe then I'll call on Karen Ryder to finish it up. Is that okay? This is our sode, and I want to have a little time to talk. So how are we able to hear the Holy One? Right. This is Rabbi Jonathan Sachs, I think, in a brilliant understanding of what leads us to hear it. It's all about the listening that comes from hearing inside. Freddie.
Yeah, the service of the priests in the temple was accompanied by silence. The lights sang in courtyard, but the priests,
right, the Levites, yeah.
The Levites sang in the courtyard, but the priests, unlike their counterparts in other ancient religions, neither sang nor spoke while offering the sacrifices. One scholar has accordingly spoken of the silence of the sanctuary. The Zohar speaks of silence as the medium in which both the sanctuary above and the sanctuary below are made. Our most profound saying of the Amida is called the Tefillah B'Lashit B'Chash, the silent prayer. It is based on the precedent of Hannah praying for a child. She spoke in her heart. Her lips moved, but her voice was not heard. God hears our silent cry. In the agonizing tale of how Sarah told Abraham to send Hagar and her son away, the Torah tells us that when their water ran out and the young Ishmael was at the point of dying, yet God heard the voice of the child. Earlier, when the angels came to visit Abraham and told him that Sarah would have a child, Sarah laughed inwardly, that is, silently. Yet she was heard by God. God hears our thoughts even when they are not expressed in speech. The silence that counts in Judaism is thus a listening silence, and listening is the supreme religious art. Listening means making space for others to speak and be heard. Commentary to the Siddur, there is no English word that remotely equals the Hebrew verb shema in its wide range of senses: to listen, to hear, to pay attention, to understand, to internalize, and to respond indeed.
So what Freddie's saying, by the way, without any accent, which is perfect, right? Which is my accent, right? So is that listening is the supreme religious art, right? So this is what the setup here is. We have lost the art of Shema, of listening. So somehow, if we can hear again, we can receive revelation again. Karen, pick it up. This is one of the key elements.
This is one of the key elements in the Sinai covenant, when the Israelites, having already said twice, all that God says we will do, then says, all that God says we will do and we will hear. The nishma. It is the nishma, listening, hearing, heeding, responding, that is the key religious act. Thus, Judaism is not only a religion for doing and speaking, it is also a religion of listening. Faith is the ability to hear the music beneath the noise. There is the silent music of the spheres, about which Psalm 19 speaks. The heavens declare the glory of God. The skies proclaim the work of his hands. Day to day they pour forth speech. Night to night they communicate knowledge. There is no speech. There are no words. Their voice is the one not heard, yet their music carries throughout the earth. There is the voice of history that was heard by the prophets, and there is the commanding voice of Sinai that continues to speak to us across the abyss of time. I sometimes think that people in the modern age have found the concept of Torah from heaven problematic, not because of some new archaeological discovery, but because we have lost the habit of listening to the sound of transcendence, a voice beyond the merely human. It is fascinating that despite his often fractured relationship with Judaism, Sigmund Freud created in psychoanalysis a deeply Jewish form of healing. He himself called it the speaking cure, but it is in fact a listening cure. Almost all effective forms of psychotherapy involve deep listening. Is there enough listening in the Jewish world today? Do we in marriage really listen to our spouses? Do we as parents truly listen to our children? Do we as leaders hear the unspoken fears of those we seek to lead? Do we internalize the sense of hurt of the people who feel excluded from the community? Can we really claim to be listening to the voice of God if we fail to listen to the voice of our fellow humans? From time to time, we need to step back from the noise and hubbub of the social world and create in our hearts the stillness of the desert where, within the silence, we can hear the call to
Madaka.
the still, small voice of God, telling us we are loved, we are heard, we are embraced by God's everlasting arms. Anoki echoes forth, we are not alone.
Right, so yeah, we can stop the share if we right, so we can see people if they if they can, right? So what is so compelling here? What is Jonathan Sacks saying to us? What's he saying to us about revelation and receiving revelation in the core Koshi, which is how revelation and hearing Anochi Adonai is the key to our life journey? Jane?
I think, I was thinking that sometimes, and the expressions, silence speaks louder than words, it reminded me of when Aaron's sons were killed.
Yeah.
Aaron was silent.
Yeah. The difference here, Jane, is that silence can't be silence for its own sake. Silence has to lead to a deep hearing, a deep listening.
Exactly.
Right? Clarence?
Hineni.
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 Yep.
I think that's a summary.
Yeah, Hineni is beautiful. What do you mean by that? I love that.
So you're receptive and open. And
Yeah.
willing to receive.
Yeah. Hineni is, right, by the way, right? I am here. Right? My I is here. Anochi. Right? There's the big I of the universe, that's God. There is the little I. This is totally Rabbi Larry Kushner, right? God was in this place and I did not know it, right? And then there's the little I, right? When we respond with Hineni, says Kushner, right, to the big I, revelation proceeds. Right. Think about this, right? So what is, and Michael referenced this, right, as did Tamara, right? Shema Yisrael. What does that mean? This is the watchword of our faith. I hear Rabbi Jacobson again. We join together for the watchword of our faith, right? Right. I could never have been a voice if I tried, right? So what does it mean? Right? Shema Yisrael. Listen, Israel. Adonai, right, is Eloheinu, right? Right? Yud He Vav He is Eloheinu. If we can hear Adonai and make Adonai Echad. The Shema is, are you hearing? You know that, maybe you know the story, maybe you remember the story. What's the great mystical story that was taught by Menachem Mendel of Rimanov to his students? 5 students are arguing one Shabbos morning. What did the people of Israel hear at the base of Mount Sinai? The first student says they heard the whole Torah. The second student says they heard the 10 Commandments. The third student says, no. All they only heard, don't you read the portion? They just heard the first 2 commandments. The fourth student says, no, I think they just heard the first commandment. The fifth student says, no, they just heard the first 2 words, Anochi Adonai. The Rebbe is listening to them and interrupts their discussion. And he says, students, learn the lesson. All the people Israel at the base of Mount Sinai needed to hear was the first letter of the first word of the first commandment. They all shook their heads. Oh. And then one of the students says, but wait a minute. That's the Aleph? That's a silent letter. And the Rebbe says, no. It's not a silent letter. It's an almost silent letter. An Aleph is taking in breath to begin a conversation. So what the people Israel heard at the base of Sinai was the start of a conversation in covenant that never stopped. And God's still speaking now.
Yes. Many years ago, I met an Orthodox Rebbetzin, Esther Youngrice.
She was great. She's great.
She was a.
I hope she's still around. I hope she's around.
She was.
May she remember me for blessing. Yes.
Her organization was called Hineni.
Yes.
She was comes from a family of many rabbis, and she was a concentration camp survivor.
Yes.
The reason I mention her, here's a woman who, from a practical point of view, did what we're talking about now. she spoke to people who were in distress and helped them in a very practical way.
Yeah, so what you're saying is, which is beautiful, is she responded to the Hineni.
Yes.
So hearing Adonai or hearing Anochi Adonai is somehow responding with Adonai's creation. Ellis.
I was gonna say this might sound like a little bit of a tangent, but you know, in Einstein's theory of relativity, he said that there was more than one time, two times. There was a time for us all and a time for us individually. And the time for us as individuals was disparate and yet the same as the time it is for others or for us. And I just wondered to myself, I wonder if how much religion or the understanding of religion fuels science.
Yeah.
Because it certainly did for Copernicus.
Yeah, and for the Rambam too, right? For Maimonides too, because you notice what he said in his comment, right? Anochi Adonai is the foundation of all revelation and scientific discovery, meaning the universe is one. It's united by Anochi Adonai. Clarence, and then Wood, last comment.
Einstein, since Ellis brought it up as a digression. The insight is that each of us is an observer, and based on our capacities, our location, we only understand proportion. And that is what we're seeing related to faces.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That every person who looked into that mirror saw a different face. The mirror was Adonai.
And that's because of each person's is an observer with that person's own specific.
Yeah, I'm gonna make a comment on that in a second after Lloyd.
Start with one thing that Rabbi Sachs wrote. They talked about how things have changed in the modern world. It encourages it to listen as opposed to bloody history.
Yeah.
Which is his prerogative, or was his. And this takes me back. Over here, the Shema is held out as a period. But there is another paradigm of practical Judaism, which is the Keves Ha'achad Taseh B'Boker, the Keves Ha'Sheni Taseh Ben Harabayim.
Right.
You bring the first sacrifice in the morning, the second in the afternoon. And that actually ties into what the Rebbe was writing, which is you park yourself here in the morning. It's a matter of practice.
Yeah.
That ends up bringing it home.
Right. Yeah.
More than anything else.
Yeah, so-
Because
yeah.
And then when you think it's a Hineni, Abraham is saying it, I'm here and I'm gonna kill my son.
Right.
Is that really the paradise?
Right. So you connected actually to what I was going to say to Clarence in response to the Einstein, right? For Einstein, it's we are observer. For us as Jews, we cannot be just observers, right? We have to be saying Hineni, I'm ready to do it. Not kill my son, God forbid, no, on some days. But rather we are here to make God real by hearing and responding in the world God created. Right? We are God's agents in the world. We are God's witnesses to holiness in the world by making it real. I wish I had more time, but I'm going up to the bar mitzvah. There's probably people praying with Ashira and Lexi. There's a great morning minion here, right? If you don't ever experience it, it's going to be awesome. I would say to you, if you're doing nothing tomorrow, we have our last conversation on modern Zionism with Leshnik. It's going to be great. And in the meantime, Shabbat Shalom, guys. It's great to see everybody.
Shabbat Shalom. Great show.
Shabbat Shalom, Freddie. Love you.
Thanks, Jeff. Fabulous. Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Shalom.